Welcome back to the shop. We're out here, we're getting posted up. Today, we're going to talk about metering your hours. So, it's very important to meter your hours, and to do so nowadays is common practice, but back in the 60s, it was not so common. That's why John Deere came up with this. So, right now, it's pretty hard to find on a 110 or 112 or 140, square fender era, to find an original hour meter attachment accessory. So the idea is, back in the day, they came up with an accessory kit that would have been dealer installed. So I have the Lawn and Garden Parts and Service book with original service bulletins. This is dated October of 1969. This is basically sent to the dealers from corporate, stating the new hour meter is available, with the part number for the whole kit. It's available for installation on any tractor with a 12-volt electrical system and a 1.5-inch steering column. Basically, this is just for garden tractors. Hour meters were available as an accessory for some large tractors and skid steers and a lot of other things. But today we're just talking about lawn and garden branded ones, or basically hour meters that are specifically designed for garden tractors. Really, that's what this is. When they say any tractor with 12-volt electrical system, they also mean that it's retrofitted for a round fender or a 60 or that sort of thing. So this is dated October 69. This is when they were first introduced. This photo here shows an hour meter kit in the original package. So funny enough, I basically have that. This is basically how it was displayed on the dealership shelf, such as something like this. This doesn't show them because this is the early round fender version. There's a later version on the later operators manuals that does show it, but when you had a display like this, this is how it was displayed, and this is how it was shipped. Flat box, and then the dealers were to some of the packaging is just super neat, that shows the actual hour meter. The idea is that the normal shipping box turns into a display by putting it up that way, and then all of your parts were down in here. So this is an incomplete kit. So you can see here, box of parts, and what's supposed to be in here is wiring and a bracket, wiring, I think an extra fuse to transfer wiring. Just a neat piece of history here. This is actually the original receipt for this. So this is a clear whirly receipt with the correct part number for the hour meter kit, for $22.11 with tax, dated September 11th, 1972. Pretty neat to have all this with this. These original packages are not very common. Now, the only thing I will say is, like I said, this is not a complete kit. When I purchased this, I actually bought this as just an empty cardboard box. So if somebody actually has one of these things all together like this, complete, or just an empty box, put it down in the comments, DM me on Instagram, get a hold of me, let me know. I'm very interested. So if you noticed on the box here, that hour meter shows that it says John Deere. That says John Deere, but as you can see here, that does not say John Deere. This, like I said, is how they were sold at the dealerships in this box. This hour meter is not what you would have bought at the dealership. What's interesting is if you look at this original print, original listings of the service bulletin, you can see it says Hamilton Watch Company, Lancaster, PA. So it shows it here in the John Deere box with the Hamilton Watch Company hour meter, and that's why I put a Hamilton Watch Company hour meter in this box, because this box was empty. So kind of a fun thing to emulate this box and meter to the original service bulletin. With that being said, here's a 1970 genuine parts and accessories catalog. So it has all your repair parts, switches and batteries and whatever else, along with an hour meter. So this lists the hour meter in 1970, part number for the whole kit, $25. So whoever bought the one in the receipt in there got a pretty good deal. If you look close, and it's going to be hard to tell, that actually does show the Hamilton Watch Company hour meter as well. So they use this photo is still the same photo probably as what they used here. So that's fairly common to see in printing of literature and stuff, prototypes, if you will. Again, this isn't a prototype hour meter, but this is before they kind of ran into production. What's interesting is that Hamilton Watch Company is in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, which is kind of where I grew up and was born and raised and live. So it's kind of a cool local piece of history for me, as well as they still make watches. So this isn't this one, but when I got married, my wife bought me a Hamilton watch because I was so intrigued with garden tractors and Hamilton watch history of Lancaster and hour meters. So they're still around. They don't make anything in Lancaster, sadly, anymore, but pretty neat stuff. And that is why I wanted one of these hour meters in this box. So with that, this hour meter is not what you would have bought. Even though it's shown in the books, it is not correct. When they came out in October of '69, I believe what they did was, and I have no real writing or proof, and I'm sure somewhere in a trash can in 1970 or so, there was somewhere a letter between John Deere and Hamilton and correspondence back and forth as far as purchasing hour meters for bulk use and whatnot. So the cool part is they basically outsourced manufacturing of hour meters to Hamilton for John Deere. Garden tractor hour meters. These hour meters are only used they're only used really for garden tractors. So there's 3-hole hour meters for big farm tractors, but they're different actual meters. A lot of them are made by different manufacturers and that sort of thing. What's neat about having this box as well is on the back and on the bottom it says manufactured for John Deere by Hamilton Watch Company in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. So that's a pretty neat thing in the packaging, local history, that sort of thing. But like I said, this is not what you would have gotten. It would not have said Hamilton Watch Company on it. You would have received this. This is an original hour meter that if you walked into the dealership this came out in October, say December of '69 or January of '70, and you would have saw this box on the shelf with this hour meter in it. So it does not say Hamilton on the front. It is a steel case on the back and pretty deep with this style plugs on it, but you can see here it says manufactured by Hamilton Watch Company, Lancaster, PA. So they're pretty proud of their stuff and has their name, stamped in the back of them. These in the front of them, and even on the boxes that they were sold. So it would not surprise me if these boxes were made in Pennsylvania and printed with all this manufactured by Hamilton and shipped to John Deere. This is what you would have gotten. You would have a stamped steel bracket with 3 screws and this meter that says John Deere on it, and that little guy there will spin when it has power to make sure it's running. Then you have your tenths and then your hours. So like this tractor would have had 1,338 hours on it when I took this off. You can see the bracket here, and this is an hour meter bracket that does not have a meter. So if you have an original meter, let me know. I love to put it with this. You can see it has a radius around here, around the around, and then this would actually clamp onto your steering column like this with a hose clamp, and this would be mounted onto a tractor via the steering column. It's difficult to reproduce these because they're stamped. You'd actually kind of have to have stamping dies to do that. I'm going to introduce a video here that shows the hour meter on an actual tractor. You can see it uses just a standard hose clamp from anything on around the steering column to hold the hour meter bracket to. So like I said, in about 1970, if you walked into a dealer, this is what you would have gotten. Now with that, and being that we've already discussed that Hamilton made the hour meters for John Deere, John Deere is not an hour meter manufacturing company, but Hamilton was. So they outsourced it. Well, I would assume that either somebody got upset or whatever, like with money, or if there was a better deal, or they shopped around basically. With that, in probably, I'm going to say 72 to 73, this is not what you would have gotten if you walked into a dealer that just got a fresh shipment of hour meters. These are correct for garden tractors. That is not the problem. This is correct. However, this is also correct. This is a different type of meter, but this is correct, and this is not really shown too much in literature, but I found enough of these all the same way that are real, true garden tractor hour meters. This is on, if you go back to the channel and watch some of the video on the heavy-duty air cleaners. We have one of these hour meters that was purchased new in 1973, installed onto a 140. That's all original paint, all original tractor, and the hour meter shows 690 original hours. So I know that meter and this meter, you know, is 4,200 hours, so that's pretty good for like a 140 or so. These are correct for garden tractors as well, and if you notice, they don't say John Deere on them. So I don't want people, the whole purpose of this video is to show people that there are two different ones, as well as just because something doesn't say John Deere on it, this meter doesn't mean that they replaced one of these with this just off-the-shelf meter from, you know, back in the day, Harbor Freight or something like that. As you can see, it is not quite as deep as the Hamilton ones. The Hamilton ones are much more, are much deeper in length as that. They're also, Hamilton ones are metal back here. This is all plastic here. The cool part is that they're a little shallower, a little lighter. It's not really a race car, but everything's race car. The cool part is too that like this one's dated 2 of 74. You can kind of see it there. So whenever I find these, all these are pretty much dated, and like I said, most of them are later than like 72, 73 usually, and on. So this would have been used from October 69, they came out according to the service bulletin, to about 74. In 75, this box would have been different, and you wouldn't have gotten an hour meter with 3 holes. You would have gotten one that mounts like an amp meter with a bracket from the back with 2 screws back here that you would tighten the clamp. You would basically have just this face here, and it wouldn't be all the way out to here. That's because on the 200 series and 300 and 400 tractors, they all installed the hour meters in the actual dash next to the steering column, not the steering column like this, not on the actual steering column. It would have been next to it in the dash, where you cut the plastic out and put that in with the bracket. So I kept digging. Here's the original mounting instructions for this, the correct part number hour meter kit. So you can see the hose clamp with the hour meter. this, if you look, is actually a Hamilton made one that says John Deere. So it shows that the John Deere ones are correct, where the service bulletin shows the actual Hamilton faced one. You can see where they want you to put the ground on the throttle or choke cable and then put the power from the ignition switch to it. This is an actual photocopy of an original set. Like I said, my kit in the box does not have much because it was just really an empty box. So what's neat too is this is dated F3, so 3 is 1973 and F is the month, so January is A and so on, and February is B, so on and so forth. So A, B, C, D, E, F, so that'd be June of 73. Glad I can count that high. What's neat is it does mention putting it on 1670 tractors as well as round fenders, 110, 112s below 100,000 serial numbers. So this is pretty neat to have along with all that. I'd love to find an original copy. I believe this is on a snowmobile because of the John Deere tack, and it actually shows a Hamilton watch hour meter with the John Deere face on it. So again, pretty cool piece, shown in 1973. But I believe by this point these hour meters would have been phased out by the ones that do not say John Deere. So as I flip through my instructions binder that I have with random instructions like this, this is the instructions for the later 100, 200, and 300 series tractors, and you can see where they're drilling holes in the actual dash and mounting it with the bracket behind the dash. So this is later. This is actually 76, so this would be like May of 76 date code on these. I'd like to do another video on like literature, different date codes, that sort of thing to explain, but this being 76 would be for the 200 series tractors, and you can see here the meter does not have the 3 bolt holes. It's mounted from the back. So this is a pretty neat piece as well. This is an original copy, and you can see how this meter is basically the same meter, but it has the same little ticker, but it doesn't say John Deere or anything on it. But this is 3 hole face mounting. This is from the back mounting. So just a note, but again, this would have replaced these, and you wouldn't need the bracket, so it's cheaper for them to sell a kit for this. But now it's kind of neat to see these on tractors, and kind of neat to find them because they're just extremely hard to find. So if anybody has one of these and they would like to sell it, feel free to let me know. I'd be very interested in any of the hour meters, either one, the John Deere ones or the non-John Deere ones. So that's just showing, like I said, the 200 series one that replaced it. So with that, now we know that there's 2 different variations of these hour meters, and like I said, the actual bracket is stamped steel. There's no welding on the back side. It's just stamped, big press drawn out steel. Pretty neat to see the manufacturing little quirks and whatnot as you go. This would be an original wiring harness. These 2 spades would go on the actual meter, and then you'd have the ground eyelet and the 90-degree power cord that you would tie into the circuit breaker on a 140 or 110 whatnot. So the reason I'm showing all this is because recently I came up with this. So what you might think here is a factory hour meter bracket because it's very similar to an original. It's very tough to tell. This is actually Reproduction. I've made these for the reason that it's hard to find some of these, and on some tractors you don't need to be 100% correct, but it's fun to kind of emulate that on, say, custom build, but you still got to meter your hours for oil changes, that sort of thing, especially on a fresh rebuilt motor. Mine are not stamped. Mine are TIG welded here. So the cool part is if you see that TIG weld back there, you know that it's a Reproduction bracket. But being that it has the hose clamp here on the back, and this mounted like this on the tractor, it's tough to tell that until you take it off. So the cool part is somebody goes to sell this down the road 10 years from now, and you have this video to show them. This is not a original, so nobody can be fooled, but I like to emulate as much as I can in radius at the front to show that the originals were stamped, and to emulate that. So these use any standard, really, 3-hole mounting hour meters. The cool part is that, like I said, I can source some of those. This meter, being that does not say John Deere, took me a while, but I figured out these were actually produced by DATCON in East Petersburg, Pennsylvania, here in Lancaster. So another piece of little local history. So I've been able to track down some of these, and you can see DATCON in East Pete. But if you flip them over, and this one's dated 4/76, it's identical to the original. Same meter, same everything, just different face on the front. Same little trigger. I guess the numbers are black instead of white. But when you flip them over, they're identical. So from here, you can't really tell. So when I sell these, if I sell these together as a kit, in theory, you're getting a correct hour meter, just with a different face, but you get a little piece of Amish County history with East Pete and Lancaster, with Hamilton and DATCON. But you can see it bolts right up. But on a tractor, if you don't know any better, this is about as close to an original as possible, if you were to not be able to find one of these originals. Pretty cool. I've been wanting to do this for a while because I think people would enjoy having them on their tractors. This is a reproduction part. If you were to want one of these, get in the comments, DM me on Instagram, find me on Facebook. Pope of John Deere on Instagram, Pope of John Deere on YouTube, Carl Moritz on Facebook. Find me, message me. If you're looking for one of these, let me know. Have a couple of these, have a couple hour meters, Hamiltons, DATCONs, whichever you'd prefer. If you want one of these, let me know. But again, the purpose of this video is to show you kind of what options you had, what's correct and what's not, what's available now as far as reproduction stuff, and what I'm making currently to help fill the void of not being able to find some of these originals, as well as inform people and show people some neat literature. That's where we're at. Don't forget, everybody, to meter your hours. If anybody has an idea as far as an accessory like this that you have heard about or seen, or you've only heard rumors about, put it down in the comments. I'd like to see what everybody else has to say or think, or would like to see on the channel or otherwise. Hope everybody enjoyed the informative, hopefully, talk. And if anybody has any things to say, positive or negative, put it down in the comments. If you haven't already, hit the bell notification, hit the subscribe button, and we'll see you next time.